Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Melinda Nipper, and I'm with Special Education Advocacy Services of Luzerne. We are very blessed to have on with us today Kirk Behnke, and he is a UDL expert, Universal Design and Learning. Now, there are a lot of acronyms with Universal Design, assistive technology. There's all sorts of different things. We will go through the acronyms, and we're going to put a lot of stuff up. Kirk has actually also provided us with some resources, which I'll put the link to, which has pattern resources on there. It has understood.org and a whole pile of different things to do with IEPs, assistive technology, and we're going to go through a little bit of that too. So I'm going to introduce Kirk. Kirk Behnke has presented nationally and internationally on assistive technology, web tools, and universal design for learning, UDL, for over 25 years. His passion is helping to facilitate excellence in learning for all, whether it is in person or virtual classroom, conference, or higher education setting. He has held an array of administrative positions, such as the Director of Technical Assistance for the National Accessible Educational Materials, known as AEM, Center at CAST, where he supported the delivery of universal, targeted, and intensive technical assistance and learning opportunities regarding accessible educational materials and accessible technologies within the United States and abroad. He also led a national team of consultants as a coordinator of training, grants, and contracts in the development and implementation of the Assistive Technology Application Certificate Program, ATACP, at California State University, Northridge. He also held the position of the lead for the Texas Assistive Technology Network at Region 4 Education Service Center. If you don't know Texas education, it's all done in regions. He is also contracted outside of the US for many assistive technology and UDL training and implementation contracts. Kirk holds a master's degree from Temple University in education, special education, a credential as an assistive technology professional from the Rehabilitation and Engineering Society of North America, or commonly known as RESNA, and a certificate in assistive technology applications from the University College of Dublin, Ireland. Esteemed, we're very lucky to have you. I want to tell the viewers how I met you. So I met you at C2P2 a couple of years ago when you were presenting for our Harrisburg cohort, and you had us running all around the hotel looking for universal design, which was quite fun because it broke up the session.
Yeah.
But, I was really impressed about the amount of opportunities there are, particularly in learning, to have universal design. So, Kirk, tell us just an overview. What is UDL and how can it be applied?
Sure. Thank you, Melinda. First of all, for having me tonight.
You're welcome.
Excited about being here because, part of my whole blood, if you will, my mom was a preschool inclusion teacher, and my dad was an engineer for General Motors. And so naturally, I had both sides of, special education and technology and engineering. And so I was just made to fit for what we call assistive technology, and then incorporating an AT for special populations, special education, and then making it more accessible in the curriculum for people with disabilities. Because you can always have technology, but what you do with it is always the key for implementation. Because we all have computers, we all have all these great tools that we use in our everyday home. Some we have more than we actually use every day. And what we don't know is how to use them and how to implement them in a most effective way. That's really what universal design for learning is all about. It's about not that it's an education initiative. It really is a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking and shifting the focus in a teaching environment to a learning environment. And I know that sounds really, kind of basic, but that's really what it's all about. Is really the focus is on the learners and not the teacher. We traditionally have done, the professor holds all the knowledge of information, and the professor is the one that is the key to the whole learning process. And I tend to disagree. I think they're part of it, but really you have to have not only a good facilitator of education, but you also have to have a good environment to foster that. You have to have good supports and administration to develop, and like a petri dish in order to access and to respect everyone's learning needs, because we all have different ways that we learn. Think about your favorite teacher when you were younger. Probably your favorite teacher was one that you probably related to the most. Let's say it was the way that they taught, or it was the way kind they were to you, or maybe it was the way that they presented the information, or maybe it was the way that they gave out assignments because you were really into that assignments. Those are the ways that we can provide alternative ways or flexible options for learners to obtain that knowledge, get that into our heads, and then show what we know so we can provide flexible options. And universal design is also about reducing barriers in education. So, Melinda, I'm going to bring up that cartoon that we did the first year, and it's I'm going to explain this to you, but I do have it available on the pad.
Shall we share it?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so if you click on the share screen at the bottom of yours,
Got it.
and then you can bring that in, and then I can add it.
Okay, so what I'm sharing right now is our Padlet. Hopefully you're seeing that.
Yep, there's the Padlet.
All right, and in here we have all of our videos here underneath this column. I'm actually looking for we have all of our inclusion resources here. Underneath universal design, we have our this is our framework, the Universal Design for Learning graphic organizer here. We have things from Patan and their UDL. Well, shoot, I thought I put it up here, but apparently I didn't. Let me find it real quick because I know exactly where it is. Give me one
So
more second.
I have it in the banner, but I'm also going to add the Padlet address into the comments section. If anybody also has any questions while we are presenting, you're more than welcome to put them in. Yes, absolutely. It's not on the website. We're going to put it straight into the comments section. Benita just asked if it's something that we could have access to, and absolutely, because it's all about accessibility.
Right.
While you're looking for that, Kirk, I do want to have a discussion with something that I just watched recently. So a gentleman who is very high ranking in the UK in dyslexia had on his webpage, he had the gentleman that actually created the C-Pen.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the UK, C-Pens are allowed during exams. They actually have that available for children with dyslexia and different learning styles. And the universities are looking at opening that up to all students, because they're seeing that there's a benefit, not just for students with learning disabilities, but for all students. And that is the whole point of UDL.
Exactly. And that is the whole. We can use a tool when we need the tool. It's not that we want to provide the tool just for a specific purpose or to take a test. If you're not using the tool, in an everyday instance, then what you're going to do is you're not going to use the tool for just the test. What you want to do is utilize that as a part of your toolkit. We all have different toolkits that we use every day in order to make either accommodations or just basically make some things a little bit more easier for us to do. And I think that's really important to notice and to see. So, and I think that's really important to show. I'm going to show this. Now, are you able to see?
Yeah, I love this. Yeah, you can see that, but if you can go into full screen on that would be easier for everybody.
Yeah, let's just do that.
And one thing is that they were allowing the students to use them in class, but then they were being hampered by not being able to use them in a test environment.
Right.
So it can become
ways, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And in Texas, when I was in Texas, it was kind of the opposite. They were able to use all of these technologies during the school year. And then when it came to taking the test, they had to get a scribe. and they had to tell the scribe what to write, and they couldn't use the technology that they were using during the day in order to take the test, because it invalidated the testing situation. And that's like, that was one of those battles that I had to kind of step back because I got too heated about.
But I think though that it shows that change is happening slowly but surely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once we go out there and advocate for the people. But here's the cartoon I want to talk about. Equality versus equity. And so in the first image, you see that everybody, all these three boys, are trying to, the goal here is to see the baseball game. Well, there's a wooden fence, in front. And so, of course, the boys can't all see over the fence, so they had to stand on the box. And thinking of the boxes, those are the supports that we use in everyday, classroom. In the second frame, we see that individuals are given different supports, so that we're doing, we're trying to treat people equitably by giving them the supports that they need. But in the third image, what we're doing is we're actually reducing the barrier. We're taking away the barrier of a fence so that we don't need to have those extra supports in the learning environment. Because if you understand and reduce those barriers from the beginning, then you don't have to do so much in the afterthought of the reteaching or the accommodations or things like that. And so this is just quite a great little image to give to show, to say that it's really important when you look at curriculum or look at things that are in the educational environment, is to identify the barriers and see what you can do about reducing the barriers in the beginning. Because, for example, in the third image, let's say that boy in the middle, what if he was able to see over with the box over the fence? But let's say, for example, if he didn't have the barrier in the beginning, then he could feel a little bit maybe less self-conscious because he doesn't need the support. Or he can also feel like he's part of everybody that's needed there. And so it's a level playing field for most people. So that's the image I wanted to share. Sorry.
And I always want to say, like, fair isn't always equal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important statement that everybody should remember, because a lot of times when you're in IEPs, in IEP meetings, individualized education plan meetings, they are the comments that are brought up. Well, that's not fair to the other students. But not providing it doesn't give equality. It doesn't give that.
It doesn't give equality. That's correct. Yeah. That's absolutely.
And, so I just want parents to really take into mind that, fair isn't equal. It may seem like more, but if they do universal design and they make it equal for everybody, then we don't even have to talk about what's fair.
Exactly. Because it's just part of the conversation. And I think that's one of the things that I really do love about universal design, because you're thinking from the beginning. You're including everyone. So and you're including not only kids who might have special needs, but you're also including gifted and talented kids. Because they get bored with just doing extra work sometimes, or teaching other kids when they're in their classroom. Or it also might be that a gifted and talented student might be great in English, but maybe not so much in math. So you don't want to kind of label them as gifted and talented for all subject matters, or special education, or having behaviors or challenges in other ways. So you want to really, the whole key of universal design for learning is really about looking at individual strengths and their weaknesses and plan for the margins. And this is another cartoon that I love to pull in too, if I wanted to show this.
I love this one too.
And you've all seen this with, Darwin's theory of, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. So please climb that tree. The goldfish might not be able to climb that tree. The seal might not be able to climb that tree. The monkey's going to have no problem. They're going to excel. But that's because it's just one goal. It's that one goal that they're doing is climbing the tree. What if we change that goal to just say, why don't we say the goal is to get to the top of the tree? So the elephant, his strength is just strength, period. And so he can tear down that tree to get at the top of the tree, or, other people like the seal and the fish, maybe they could work together to get on top of the elephant, and get to the top of the tree. or, ask the penguin for help or whatever. But what we're trying to get here is that the framework really encourages individual strengths rather than the weaknesses, and then they plan for the margins. So I tend to like this cartoon a lot as well.
My question in all of this is, obviously now with the pandemic, we have gone to hybrid or full virtual, whether it be synchronous or asynchronous learning for students, including students with disabilities for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
What does universal design for learning mean for an online course or a virtual classroom?
Well, what's happened is that, in March, when everything started to shut down and you were a teacher in classrooms and you saw kids face to face every day, you had a certain way of teaching them, right? So you were giving them, classroom instruction, you were doing groups, you were hopefully, doing some visual materials, you were also doing auditory materials, you were also working with them individually. You can still do that in a virtual environment. You just have to start thinking differently. Some teachers, unfortunately, think that you're limited to the parameters of working in a virtual environment, so that all you have to do is do something like this, a talking head, and you can't have anybody else. Just you need to listen to what I'm saying, maybe have a PowerPoint up there, and that's all you're going to do. There's a lot of virtual environments that actually lend itself to a lot of collaboration. Getting kids in or students into teams, and dividing those into teams in the virtual environment, having them collaborate together, having them get more interested or engaged in the material rather than just hearing it from me or looking at a PowerPoint or reading it from a book. There's quite a number of different tools that you could use. And in fact, on here, Sean Smith, this is a great one, Planning and Teaching in Marvel, is a great little presentation that you might want to take a look at. And he gives you some ideas of what to look at and how to then take, when you were thinking traditionally in a physical environment, how can we then take these methods, the goals, the methods, the materials, and the assessments that you were doing in a physical environment, how can we then lift them up into a virtual environment and still make them engaging and make them have multiple means of representation, multiple means of engagement, multiple means of action and expression? How can we use those three principles of the Universal Design for Learning framework and apply that lens to our virtual environment? And we can do that. It's not, it takes some time. I'm going to tell you that. It takes some time, takes some thought. But I think this whole pandemic, one of the silver linings in this cloud, if you will be that we start to look at things a little bit differently when it comes to education, because education is fluid. It's not just in the classroom, it's everywhere. It's not just on the computer, it's in the lunchroom, it's in the parking lot, it's on the bus. I mean, we learn in so many different environments. Why not have opportunities in different learning environments as we move forward, so that it's not just all in one place, that we actually start looking in different ways of planning for or teaching in the new normal, as he calls it.
Yeah.
I think
that's
great.
I also say too, though, that, if we've got cyber charter academies across the nation and across the world that are teaching students with disabilities, and they're doing it well, progress monitoring is happening. I'm not saying for every student, because this is not okay for every student, but there are some students that are actually benefiting from, the methodology and how it's being taught. And I just feel like, if we can do that in a cyber charter academy, and have been done for years, that there is no reason with what we have technology now that those engagements can't happen in the school virtual realm. And I think that it's really important that parents, if you've got children who have accommodations and modifications on their IEPs, all of that can still be done virtually. It might have to be done in a little bit of a different way, but we can truly, individualize it and not make it this one size fits all program. If there's something that your child needs, like a read aloud, contact the school district and ask them to contact tech support. How do you do this in your program? Because, majority of programs these days, like Microsoft Teams, all have text readers. They have all these great things built in. And I believe that pretty much every single educational program that is being used, Google Classrooms and things like that, they all have these abilities and these functionalities. It just may be that the teacher doesn't know how to turn them on.
Yep.
So we have a question, Kurt, and I just want to bring this up. This is from Benita. She said universal design to her appears to be complicated. Is there information on your site that breaks it down so it's understood?
Sure.
Almost like a flow chart type thing, I guess.
Yep. So underneath the Universal Design for Learning UDL tab, column, you'll see a couple of really great resources that are on here. The graphic organizer, and I'm going to bring that up right now, but this is your graphic organizer to kind of understand Universal Design for Learning. Now, we have an hour. I can give a whole week training on Universal Design for Learning, and as Melinda can attest, at C2P2, I was only given, that night and the next morning to talk about Universal Design and Universal Design for Learning, and I still didn't have enough time. So,
and we were all thirsty for more.
But as Benita says, I have an hour. So, what I want to do is just kind of give you a little teaser of what Universal Design for Learning is. And so I'm just going to show you, and this is from CAST, the Center for Applied Special Technology. I used to work there as a Director of Technical Assistance there, as well as the Director of Technical Assistance for the AIM Center, which is Accessible Instructional Materials. But what we look at is 3 columns here. So we have the first pillar, which is providing multiple means of engagement.
Kirk, are you able to make that a little bit bigger on the screen?
Let me try. If I do my...
Sorry.
I can also just do my built-in embedded supports as in my Chrome. If I click on Control and the plus, I can make that larger. Okay, so
Thank you.
Zooming it in here. And that's a great way to embed supports. It's just know your shortcuts and what to do in your accessibility wise anyway. So here's in the green, the green is we provide multiple means of engagement. So what we could do is there's an access row, a build row, and an internalize row. And what that means is in the top row of our columns, we want to provide access. So just strictly provide the access to the student for their learning. So one is recruiting interest. So how can we recruit interest in order to provide multiple means of engagement? Well, there's one way of individual choice and autonomy. We can optimize relevance, value, and authenticity. That's where a lot of project-based learning initiatives are about, our PBL. There's a lot of authenticity with that, how to manage a checkbook, how to invest in the stock market. These are all very, authentic and provide value to in learning situations. But we also want to minimize threats and distractions. So we don't want to have somebody who's going to feel threatened by it. Take example, UDL. You're here, we engaged you in this whole topic of UDL. How did we do that? I'm not sure. We just came up with a title. So you're here. So we already recruited your interest, but now the next part is that we need to sustain that interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide you with goals and objectives for this. We're going to do this in a conversational way. We're going to address questions that you come up with. We're going to vary our demand and resources to optimize your challenge. So like you said, I only have an hour here and it seems pretty complicated. So I'm breaking this down for you. I already provide with you 2 graphic images that hopefully will stick in your head to say, oh, I know what some of these things are for universal design. One is to reduce those barriers, just like the baseball field. And the other one is I need to climb a tree. So I need to really concentrate on my goals, making sure that my goals are broad enough so that individuals who have different abilities are able to climb the top of that tree or to get to that tree, not climb, because then we're dictating the goal. So what we want to do is ensure that we look at goals, we look at reducing barriers, and then I'm going to be showing you how to kind of do these 3 pillars in providing engagement, providing multiple means of representation, and providing action and expression. And then the third one is provide options for self-regulation. So if you wanted to promote expectations and belief, organize, motivate, facilitate personal coping skills and strategies, like we said, what we were trying to do is to provide you opportunities to ask questions. Melinda's going to be asking questions and leading me into the discussion as well. So this is the type where we can provide that self-regulation to get you engaged in the material and to help you. We also provided you with a Padlet, and that goes to our next part, which is providing multiple means of representation. If what I'm saying right now, if you're not able to, view this in a closed caption, if you have your closed caption on, I'm probably talking way too fast, but you should be able to get and see the closed caption on this piece. But you can also view this whole framework so that I'm not just a talking head. So we want to provide options for perception. The second one is provide options for language and symbols. If I were doing symbols or things like that, I would want to make sure I'm supporting the decoding of that text or the symbols that I'm using. So if I'm in AAC and I'm starting to use symbols to help stand for words and or phrases, for somebody who's using an augmentative communication device, I might want to explain some of those symbols so that they can say, oh yes, so the apple really means food, but it also means the verb eat. It also means categories of food, etc. And then the third one for internalize for the student is really to provide options for comprehension. How can we activate or supply background knowledge? So for example, if I had somebody from a different country on here and they weren't familiar with baseball, I might want to bring in other examples to say, or if you're at a rugby tournament or a soccer tournament, or doesn't have to be American football, or I don't know, I'm running out of examples, but you get the idea. A sporting event where you have a wooden fence versus a wire fence that you can see through. But then maximize transfer and generalization. So what we're trying to do is maximize your learning so that you can then transfer that information to you. Again, the example that I used was using those cartoons, which I think are really helpful.
Well, and I think that it's really important that the generalization must happen, or otherwise there was no point.
Right, exactly.
Now, we can only use it in one setting or one environment, then there's no future benefit.
Exactly. So the question is, it sounds like ABA, or am I wrong? No, I mean, the Universal Design for Learning is really an umbrella. So if you look at the umbrella piece of this, it's not, like I said, it's not an educational initiative. You don't follow this by its rule. It's really about paradigm shift, about the way you think about learning. ABA is going to be part of that. Project-based learning is going to be part of that. Student-centered learning is going to be part of that. So all of these different types of initiatives that are out there supporting kids with special needs, supporting kids with who struggle with reading and or writing or comprehension, or kids who might be gifted and talented, but they're still not engaged in the content because they're already done with that. They know it all, but they want to then go deeper into content. You can provide this framework for them. Or I should say, you need to design the curriculum so that you can provide that engagement for them.
So let's take ABA for an example, because Universal Design for Learning isn't a specific, right? It is doing what is needed, but providing it to all. So ABA doesn't just help children with autism. ABA, can change behavior in Alzheimer's patients, in dementia patients, in people to stop smoking, lose weight. So it's a behavior change. And, you can use that in a classroom for all learners.
Correct.
You might just have Chatty Cathy. Well, we want Chatty Cathy not to be so chatty right now. So we are going to use ABA in order to give her, what she needs, because Kathy's chattiness is telling us that she needs something. Her needs aren't being met. So let's meet her where she needs to be. So, but we're not just specifying that ABA is being used now for a student with autism. Now, we may have a student with autism in that classroom, but we could apply the methodology to all of our students.
Exactly. So let me, while we're on the same vein, because I do want to go into this third, because I think it's really important, is this whole idea of providing action and expression. So one of the things is providing options for physical action. And this is where, my background of tools and assistive technologies really come into play. This is where if you have a kid with a physical or cognitive disability who needs some scaffolds or help within the educational environment, this is where you need to make sure and ensure that your scaffolds are not only in place, but they're also written in the IEP. So for example, if we're going into a virtual environment and you turn on a screen reader by Microsoft that just happens to be on your computer and it's not written in your IEP, if that goes away tomorrow, then where are you going to be for that tool? You're going to have to find another tool for that. So what I'm saying is that you want to ensure that as part of your individualized education plan, and specifically in assistive technology, is you want to make sure you outline those tools so that they can have those tools whenever and wherever they need them. I think Melinda.
So I use I use that example because I tell teams all the time, is just because everybody's using it today doesn't mean that another school is going to be using it if that student goes to another school. So even if everybody's using a calculator, or everybody's using a C reader, or everybody's using a filtration on their pads, right? That has to be in that person with an IEP's that has to be in their IEP in order for them to always have it.
Yes, absolutely.
Benita did just ask another question. She does want to know if we're going to be able to talk about AAC and SET evaluations. Absolutely, Benita, we can do that. And we're going to do just UDL tonight, and we can go on into, because part of UDL is going to talk about the evaluations at the end of it. But once you've finished this little piece, I would then like to ask about some examples that we could share with our teachers.
And I'd be happy to talk about AAC and SET because, I love AAC. I'm, employed by an AAC company right now, and also Joy Zabala, who's the designer of SET.
Oh, yes. I love that.
I'd be happy to do that too.
So you're coming back then. I've got a commitment that you're coming
All
back.
Right. Great. As you can tell, I'd love to talk, so I'm sorry. Anyway.
No, me too.
So on the build level, when you're talking about action expression, we want to provide options for expression and communication. So for example, when we did the C2P2 and I talked about universal design, I actually had all the participants go out on a scavenger hunt and look for, after I taught them about what is universal design features, is ask them to go ahead and find some of these universal design for features within the hotel. So first of all, it addressed the access issue of getting them physical action to get up off their seats and go around, to the hotel, have a little fun while you're at it. But they came back with all of the examples and they talked about them because they saw them firsthand and they were the teachers in that. So I didn't have to, I was a facilitator of the learning, yes, but they were also the ones who were teaching the rest of the class about the things that they observed. And they brought up in more examples than I could probably think of when I just went out there by myself. So that's, again, collaborative learning too, which is another educational initiative that fits really nicely underneath the umbrella of universal design for learning. And then third is our internalized row here. And this is, again, about the student. So how can I provide options for executive functions? So how can I make myself with appropriate goal setting? how can I support planning and strategy development? What are some of the things that I could manage information and resources? What am I doing in order to help me with my executive functions? Now, to me, this is one of those steps that we miss so badly in typical special education settings. And I can't tell you enough about that. That just makes my heart sink, because a lot of times if we address these from a very beginning, a very early age about executive functions, and have those kids identify or give them the tools and scaffolds they need in order to be good executive function facilitators, then they know what they need to do and they have that information up front. I didn't know this, and this is my personal story. I really had bad executive functions learning in school, all the way up to high school. I didn't realize it until I was in the pre-med class in college, freshman year, and I went to the first one of my classes, which was biology, and I was in with a whole bunch of nursing students because we're all together. I was pre-med and nursing, we're all there. And then what it was is that they brought their 3-ring binders, their colored highlighters, their colored Post-it notes, their recorders. They brought all of their executive function skills in order to record and make things more available to them so that they could capture that information for themselves. I came in with my, with my yellow pad and my pen, and I felt so inadequate, but I learned from them. In fact, one of my, best friends was a nursing student, and she and I studied together, and she showed me all of her executive function skills that she had. One of the things I have, or, some of the things weren't appropriate for me, but I pick and choose which ones that I like. And now I have colored Post-it notes all over. When I, Melinda would probably appreciate this, but when I was developing the Assistive Technology Application Certificate program, in my home office, I had colored Post-it notes all over the walls because I had an idea here and it had to go in this module. I had another idea here, it had to go in another module. And that was my organizational skills, and that was my strategy of how to do it. So I could see the big picture of how the whole 100-hour certificate program was going to work out. And so that was how I did it. Others could have done it on a web, a web page, or done it with what they call as a web maps that they have. I tend to go old school and just write it down on a piece of Post-it note, and that's okay by me. But again, that's okay, as long as we can provide those flexible options. If we can provide those flexible options within the classroom or in an online setting, then those kids who struggle have those resources, have those tools that they could use on an everyday basis so that they can obtain that information. But if we as teachers, facilitators of the education, if we don't allow that, then how can we then expect our students to really understand the knowledge if they can't compartmentalize it and use it in their way?
And we have to recognize too that executive functioning deficits is truly a deficit. There is a missing link with the processing, and we really need to work on that from a very early age, as soon as we recognize that deficit exists. I have children who are in 1st and 2nd grade using task analysis because I want them to be independent. I don't want them to get to 4th, 5th, 6th grade and now they're dependent on adult prompting. No, we're going to work on it now, because then they're going to start learning that this is a tool that I need in order to be organized, or this is a tool that I need in order to be able to do this next thing. And I would rather it be right from the start that the child is learning to be independent versus dependent.
It's funny you should say task analysis, because I was a guest lecturer at Harvard, and we were there's a whole course on universal delightful learning, and I came in as for a couple of classes. And one of the things I did have them do was a task analysis of, going and buying a can of soda. And, they had pages of things that they had to do, and they never realized that was part of, task analysis, is that you have to have so many of those skills in order to connect to each one, in order to just do one task. It's interesting.
And to be able to break that down so it's not, the task doesn't become overwhelming. And I think that that is really important for our children with ADHD, with learning disabilities, is that tasks become overwhelming and the function that they're communicating behaviorally to us by their task avoidance, by their escape behavior, that they can't do the work, so they can't access it. So even when they look, when psychologists and the teams are looking at cognitive ability and saying, oh, well, this student's intelligent. Well, hang on, we have to look at the reasons. What's the barrier? So let's break that barrier down, give them a TA, give them checklists on what do I need to do for this next class? What do I have to be organized?
Right.
And have them start learning to be independent. My own daughter, she's now 7th grade, and she's so prompt dependent. And I'm like, you guys created that. Because they're like, well, she doesn't want to learn. She's got to put the effort in. No, you created a prompt dependent child. And I've been telling you for years to give her a TA. She has TAs at home for different things that she has to get done because she can't organize. And she gets so distracted by things. So for me, giving the children the tools, we can't just keep saying, oh, do this, do this, do this. Give them the tools to be able to be forward learners and that they can continue to learn and not be dependent.
Right.
So
And again,
I get on my soapbox with that one.
No, Belinda, this is great. But as you can see, and I'm just going to wrap this up here on this is called the UDL framework, so that you'll have a framework. Now, you don't have to, as a teacher or as a facilitator of education or professional development, whatever, you don't have to do all of these all the time. What I would suggest is you pick one area and concentrate on it, do it really well, and then try another area and then add on, each time that you either do it or at the next time you do a lesson, just start to think about this and go through your checklist of what things you could actually incorporate. So the first thing you're going to incorporate is in recruiting interest, or work on that access level, do that first. And then work on the building the partnership with your student to understand how you can sustain effort, how you can provide for language and symbols, and how can you provide for expression and communication. What are some of the fun activities that you could do in order to do that? So take these, as one individual. You can't do it all at once because it won't work. When I was working for Houston at Region 4 Education Service Center, we were doing a UDL program for a high school in Cesar Chavez High School in South Houston. And it was a big deal. And the first year we were training teachers, a selected group of teachers, but we also had 2 cohorts, one with teachers and one were the administrators and the assistant vice principals. And this was a high school of about 6,000 kids. So it was a huge high school. In Texas, they make them really large. So when you have 2 groups, when we had 2 cohorts, I was in charge of the administrators because of my background, but I was telling them, you need to have the buy-in. You need to understand, what is this all about? We're not doing another educational initiative. What we're doing is, how are you thinking about learning? And what are those things? And I'll tell you, and anybody who talks about universal design for learning, and if they don't mention that you need buy-in from the administration, from the top down, they're lying to you, because you do. You absolutely positively need it from an administrative point of view. And if you don't have it, I haven't seen universal design for learning work on a systemic level unless you have the administrative support. Let's just put it that.
And that makes sense, because the administrators are the ones that are actually going to allow and enable it. So you could have all the teachers willing and ready to go, but if the administrators don't have that buy-in, it just makes sense. The program can't be up and running. But I also want to say that you can't have inclusion without UDL.
Right.
So for schools that say that they're inclusive but don't practice UDL or don't incorporate UDL, it's not inclusion. Like, you can't have one without the other. That's how I feel. Am I wrong?
No. And this is my thinking. This is Kirk Behnke talking, and again, this is a podcast, so this is great. But the whole idea behind inclusion is, people think, oh yeah, well, we're going to include them. Well, yeah, you're going to include them in the back of the classroom with a technical assistant person, and that's called inclusion? I don't think so. According to IDEA, 2004, that's not called inclusion. Inclusion is being included in the curriculum as part of the classroom, collaborating with students. The whole concept is that that student belongs to that classroom, not the student is back there with their technical assistant, learning a different, curriculum. That's not it. That's not inclusion. Inclusion is not a place, as they say. Inclusion is a frame of mind. So you do want to ensure that that is part of it. And that's why I bring up the goals of the framework. And if you notice under engagement, the goal is really to provide purpose to expert learners who are purposeful and motivated. The goal under providing multiple means of representation is, of course, having learners that are resourceful and knowledgeable. And then for providing action expression is having those learners become strategic and goal directed so that they know themselves, this is all about the student. It's not about the teacher. Sorry, I know
No, okay. You and I are very similar in the way that we think, though, and because it is about not just having inclusion marked on a box on an IEP that the child is spending their lunchtime with general education peers. That's not inclusion. And I bring that up too, like, at meetings. Well, who's coming over to sit with the children? Are you swapping the children out with other children? Because otherwise that's not inclusion if they're all sitting at a table together. Oh, well, there's opportunities for them too. Well, no. Well, what opportunities are there? You can't tell me because it's not happening.
Right.
So
and
what
I
want to do
happen naturally too.
Absolutely, it can't be forced.
Force it. Even especially with students, you want to make sure that you provide a natural environment. And kids are naturally inquisitive. So even at a fairly early age, I know some school districts have tried to do, or I should say probably successful in incorporating universal design for learning as they're doing it from a pre-kindergarten to first grade to second grade, and they're moving that through the system. And they're also, supporting their teachers, supporting their special educators. They're also supporting curriculum designers, because curriculum designer pieces are the ones that are so important to look at. How can we make this curriculum a little bit more engaging? How can we provide multiple means of action and expression? How can we provide all of those things that are needed and provide that curriculum in addition to ensuring that the instruction is part of that too? How can we reduce those barriers? And most of the time I've seen school districts incorporate better and stronger teams of curriculum designers.
And that's truly what we want, is to have that inclusion, to have the universal design. Benita just said that's a potted plant in reference to, students being placed in general ed setting at lunchtime.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that I like that. So I think
the place of inclusion, right?
That's right. So what are some examples that we can share with our teachers?
Sure. Actually, if you look at some of the John Smith pieces that I have in here, he has one on engaging learners in the online learning. And so I'm going to bring up some of his things.
Great.
And schoolvirtually.org is his website. And so what are some of the things that he can do?
Can I ask a question? Was this the presentation that he just did recently with Patton?
Mm-hmm. He did.
This is for everybody who's watching this. You got to be on this. This was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good. And Sean, I've known Sean when he was back in VA, and he actually took my assistive technology certificate program way back when, but he did a fabulous job with this. And so I'm just going to steal his stuff because I asked him if I could.
I have to have him come on.
Yeah, you should, because he's really great. He was saying like the magic pill. This is not, there is no magic pill turning, a face-to-face instruction, classroom into a universal design for learning type of thing. You just can't do it, and it's not overnight. What he's saying here is that you really need a guide. You need a map. You need to come up with a system of how are you going to become more inclusive? How are you going to become and incorporate universal design for learning. So he talks about levels of engagement, here, which we talked about as well. I'm just going to go ahead and do some things.
Yes.
He talks about the use of video models, directions, checklists, synchronous versus asynchronous. So what are we doing about how we're designing instruction? Again, I think that's important of looking at some of the tools that we could use in order to design instruction and not doing things just on the fly, because I think it's really important to have a plan. So if we look at how we can scaffold some collaborative pieces for your students in a virtual learning management system, you can break them up into smaller groups. Have them collaborate in those smaller groups. Put headers or footers on slides as scaffolds. So in order to put a picture of something so that that here's and their students will understand that here's a picture, here's our goals for today. And of course, goals need to be salient and observable, but then you also section it up so that your presentations or your PowerPoints are done by either color. You can do colors, unless you have somebody who's colorblind, then it's a problem. But I would also do, maybe a logo or a picture or something that kids can identify with. Let's see. You can use Google Slides for the student collaboration, pull in videos. So let's say if you're talking about photosynthesis, for example, you can have you can write a 3-paragraph page on photosynthesis. You can incorporate, some graphic clip art or things like that. You can also provide a video. So you can do not just one thing, but you can do multiple things and have your student then navigate toward the one that they would view as best for them if they are a expert learner in how they can understand how they learn. Some kids, videos are going to be too distracting for them. So they know that they have to maybe just look at pictures, and maybe they need to have questions and leading questions to help them. So what's happening in this picture? If you see a plant and you see the sun and the rays are coming down, there's energy being transferred. So you want to do it step by step for some of those students. And for some students, that's great because they can then, adhere to it. And in a virtual environment, you can provide all of those options because you can just pick those things. You don't have to do it all in a group thing. Sorry, I get really excited about this, as you can tell. Some other things on schoolvirtually.org. I don't want to steal all of his presentation pieces, but these are some of the tools that you can look at. You can also look at hybrid learning because I think we're moving towards hybrid learning. I know Philadelphia School District, it's a huge controversy right now because they're saying, do you want to go hybrid? And they're looking at doing Monday and Tuesday for some students, Thursday and Friday for some students, and everybody is virtually in on that Wednesday. So how will you do that face-to-face? What are you going to do for direct instruction? What are you going to do for assessment? How are you going to make that small group in that classroom, online as well as live? Now with a hybrid, you can tend to have a little bit more flexibility, if you will, because you have them face-to-face. So you can maybe do some other options or group things that you might not lend itself so easily to an online environment. So maybe you want to do like what's called a flipped classroom, where you would have Monday, if the kids are coming to school on Thursday and Friday, you might want to have Monday and Tuesday as sort of like, here, do some independent reading. Look at some of these video clips. Look at some of these resources around this particular subject. And then on Wednesday, say, here are your questions, that we need for discussion. And then when you come Thursday and Friday, then you talk about each one of those questions in a group situation, or do it in centers, have centers set up in your classroom so that you can address this question and do it in a small group. That's what Universal Design for Learning is all about. But I noticed I never said UDL. I said all of these other educational initiatives, which make up a part of that whole framework of Universal.
The whole umbrella, yeah.
Sorry, I just don't want to talk.
No, I know.
His thunder, but he does have some really great ideas in this. And if you
and it was a great presentation.
You can listen to it. I think they recorded it as well.
They did, and that's on the patent website. So I share patent stuff. I don't know if you can see behind me, but these are all the patent publications.
Yeah.
They go out. I send everything out to everybody. I don't, I'm just like, and I want to say, because I've lived in many states, and my husband was military, so we lived in quite a few different states. And I want to say, like, the resources that we have in PA from patent in regards to so many different topics is so much more extensive and exhaustive than other states. Like, we have such a great resource base, and we can get them digitally on patent, or we can actually ask for a hard copy publication. And many of the resources, and we do have patent consultants for parents and for educators, and the amount of courses that they have that are available to both parents and educators is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we have no excuses in PA not to have information.
And the intermediate units are phenomenal.
Yes, yes.
They all talk to each other too, because I work very closely now with a lot of the assistive technology, and now, of course, the UDL of the IUs. So it's really important to understand where their resources are, but also give them a call. They are more than happy to direct you in the path to get that information. And even if you don't even sure what question to ask, they have the question to ask you to see what you want to add to. So, or talk to Melinda or myself. We'd be happy to help you.
Absolutely. Everybody knows that this is my soapbox and I'll jump on it. But actually, when you come back, we can talk more about the IUs and the SET assessment and, the AAC assessments that can be done through the IUs, how parents can request them. I do have sample request letters for them, which I send out to everybody to individualize for themselves. I have worked with SET teams in many different IUs, and some of them have a little bit better handle on it and of having that parent engagement in the process. And I just think that it's more educating the parents to know what they can be a part of. Right. Because the whole point of that is that everybody is working as a team, and that everybody in the team is part of every single piece of that process. But we've got all of these resources here. Obviously, I share a lot of resources on my page. Plus, I'm going to share out your details. So I'm going to put that up as a banner right now, but I'll also put it into the comments section. So this is Kirk's his email and his Twitter. So he has Twitter. I don't have Twitter. See, that's the whole thing about Kirk and I, that, he's more technologically advanced than I am. I'm lucky I have Facebook. And Kirk also has a website. Kirk, I didn't put the website down. So can you grab that to let us know what that is?
Sure. I got to remember which one it is. I got to pull it up. I'm so sorry. I should have had
that. That's okay. I should have had it.
I'll put it in here. I don't even have my contact information. Isn't that weird?
Kirk.
My gosh.
It's not on your business card either.
I know. I'll
But that's all right. I will get it into the comment section as soon as we're done. Once it finished the streaming, and I'll get that in for everybody. Kirk does have quite a bit of information on his website, and I think it's pretty informative. So the Padlet, I think, is where everybody can go and get so much stuff that they can look at. The framework is there. Just when we're looking at just his tabs that he's put together for all of us: inclusion, IEP, universal design, AEM, and AT. I just think, thank you so much, Kirk.
Oh, I didn't even talk about AIM. I didn't even talk about instructional materials. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so why don't you do you have a couple of extra minutes that you can just stay on and just have a quick talk about AIM?
Sure. I'm trying to find where I can post my in the chat. How would I post it in the chat here?
The website? I can do that for you.
I posted it in the private chat.
Oh, you did? Okay, and I'll share that over.
So AIM is, of course, accessible educational materials, and this is a huge part of providing not only accessibility, but also just digital materials for, for the students who need them. And there's a whole office within Patent and also within IUs that are the AIM coordinators. So you can talk about or contact them. So what they do is they work with publishers. So if you have a school district who has an adopted curriculum, let's say it's a science textbook, and that science textbook is then purchased by the school district, you can also purchase digital copies of that textbook that will be accessible because it's mandated by federal law in order to do that. And they put that in a separate repository. And so those repositories can then be pulled down by these AIM coordinators for free. So the publisher is actually providing that materials so that the school districts don't have to purchase that. But you also have to make sure that that person is has a federal definition of a print disability. And so that basically means that they can either not turn the pages or they cannot read the pages that are printed. They need the text in a digital format. That's basically, and I know that a lot of people who talk about accessible instructional materials or educational instructional materials will probably cringe at what I just said, but I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version of that.
Yeah, so we'll have you back for AIM as well.
Yeah.
We'll get you back for SET and assessments, and then we're going to get you back for AIM as well.
Fantastic.
You're going to become my, what do they call those when they have the same people coming in quite regularly? What is it like? Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Not cameo, but like on a talk show, they have a talk show sidekick or whatever. I'd be happy to do the sidekick. Yeah.
No, but you know how like they have the celebrities doing the host, like Celine Dion has the thing in Vegas, right? She's she's a resident. You'll be my resident.
The resident.
Just as long as you do your dishes.
yeah, exactly. You know me too well.
Right? But no, we're going to end the broadcast. We're just over 8:00. You have just given everybody so much information, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for being on. Anybody who is no, we're very grateful. So anybody who has any questions, Kirk's details are right there. Kirk is absolutely fabulous, and this is his soapbox. He does enjoy, passing information on. Please use the Padlet that he provided. It is in the chat, and I will also add it again so that it's right there at the end. Please, this is some really good information that you've given us, and we're very appreciative. So you stay right where you are, and I'm just going to end the broadcast for everyone. And Benita just said, thank you a million. She'll be in contact with you.
You're welcome.